Congratulations
cool.
on that.
Thanks. Well, we didn't have the. We didn't have to introduce the characters again, so there was that much more plot that was available, you know.
Well, I thought one of the things they did. No, I don't think I need this one. One of the things I thought that they did that was so cool in this one is in that first wild action sequence, they introduce the characters in one line at a time. So you hear Spock say, fascinating, or whatever it is. Like they give you those little catchphrases that seem to trigger something in your head. You go, I remember everything I need to know about this character right now. And it's fast, it's integrated into the action, and it works really well.
I gotta say, I mean, JJ has become such a filmmaker. It's just so skilled that it is like it feels improvisational almost at this point. And when I know that there are thousands of decisions that precede this one moment, but it does feel like one person is saying, "Do this, do this, do this, do this," and that to me is the mark of a great filmmaker. I mean, he's just becoming a great puppet master.
Mm-hmm. Well, in this one, you get for me one of the coolest lines in the movie. If you test me, you will fail. Cool. And you're sitting in the captain's chair. Were you a Star Trek fan before this? And if so, does that have extra resonance sitting on that set in that chair?
I was a moderate fan. I was more. I thought that the original series when I was a kid looked goofy. Yeah. Because the velour and the what have you. However, I it's funny, when I was doing research for the first one, I went back and watched them, and I said I got to watch the Star Trek the series, and I started watching them, and I realized I'd seen them all. I didn't realize how much I'd consumed over the years and how much I liked it. And there's something about science fiction that I think what I liked about it as a kid was you could deal. It was overtly intellectual, and you could. They had a way of dealing with issues that didn't speak its name. You could talk about racism or poverty or whatever, but you sort of perfected these worlds in which you could almost sterile environments in which you could discuss an issue.
Well, choice. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that makes the show, the original show, so popular is that it was about something. So there's a certain amount of the audience that wants to see, particularly when the show was on, 66 through 68 or 9, I guess. That was such turbulent times anyway. So a show had to address racism, but they did it with green-skinned women.
Right.
So kids can watch them and go, cool, I like aliens, or the phasers are cool. So you've got that aspect to it, and it's sci-fi. Like all good sci-fi, it's not just about the phasers, it's about something else. Right. And so I think there's a lot of things to hang on to. And
that's true of this movie, I'd say, our second movie. It does, I mean, like you can walk in as a non-fan, and I think that there's a lot to chew on here. And there are nods to the people who follow the previous iterations. So I hope that it pleases both groups. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I thought that this movie thematically was so interesting to me in terms of what it says about war, about good and evil. It was interesting.
Well, I don't think. Well, like the original show. Was about racism and made at exactly the time that the civil rights movement was happening. It's pretty hard these days not to make something that doesn't have a resonance back to terrorism or war or something like that. I mean, it's just so pervasive in our lives that it makes sense to comment it on somehow in a film like that.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't want to overstep.
Well, no, but I was talking to Don Cheadle the other day about Iron Man, and he said, I said, what do you think of this movie in light of what just happened in Boston? And he said, we worked on this for 3 years. The script's been around for a long time, so a lot of stuff happens in the time. It just so happens that
what happened in Iron Man?
Well, so it's about terrorism as well. So there's an Osama bin Laden kind of character called the Mandarin, who played by Ben Kingsley, and he releases videos, and there's executions in the videos and that kind of stuff, right? And we talked about that, but he said, it's just part of the world now. It's part of the world that we live in, and so it makes sense that it is reflected in the art. Which makes this movie maybe sound heavier than we wanted it to.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a summer action movie at its heart, and I think I think that's what we set out to do. I think JJ didn't. I don't think he set out to push the terrorism thing.
Yeah.
It felt like to me he was pushing more. I felt that the movie was more about self-examination more than external evil. It was about one's impulse to judge, which I feel like is so much more, again, internal rather than external.
It's about loyalty.
Yeah.
It's about friendship. It's about learning about yourself.
There you go. So, yeah. Oh, you're doing my job for me.
I can sit in on the rest of these if you want. the characters, say in the first of your films, you have to reintroduce them all, make sure everybody knows. So now we all know them, but we know them from several different sources. And so, as an actor, do you feel when you're playing Sulu, do you feel that you have to pay tribute to George Takei in that way, or how much liberty do you have to change things?
Well, I felt like, there was a moment where I thought, should I try to duplicate his voice as much as possible, and I experimented with that a little bit, thought about it, and then it felt silly, and it felt like at some point a person becomes so iconic that you have to avoid doing it, and so that was my take. Carl Urban seemed to imitate him a little bit more, but it's a different story for different actor, for every actor.
Well, I think with Carl too, the way that you guys are introduced into every scene is different. My memory of this is that he seems to come in, bang off a one-liner in that voice.
Yeah, right.
Damn it, Jim! I'm a doctor, not a ... And it lends itself to that a little bit more, whereas you're sort of more integrated into the scenes as a whole.
Right, and it seemed like, I can't speak for Chris, but he seemed to really want to avoid the Shatnerisms. It was like, so it depends. But Zach seems to be very close to Nimoy's performance.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think so. I was young when Star Trek was on. I knew it all through reruns, and I watched them. But I don't remember feeling that Spock's human side came through as much as on the TV show as it does in the movie, and it does in very subtle ways. It's in his eyes, and it's a much more subtle performance, I think.
I agree. By the way, I think I was watching the TV show and I realized came to the same realization that Zach, but maybe it's because we have to show we have 2 hours, and it has to come out within those 2 hours. But they could withhold the human side for episodes and episodes until they came to an episode when it was appropriate.
Yeah.
But so he seems a little colder, Nimoy does.
Yeah, he does. More of an alien than human, for sure. Yeah.
Maybe it's also a sign of the times.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So shooting this in IMAX, it's a little different, right? I'm told that the reels are shorter and that there's all sorts of... Is that true?
Yes, the reels are shorter. The camera's bigger, huge. It takes a longer to light, and it makes a lot of noise. So it's a lot of trouble, and it wasn't used for everything, for every shot. But it was. I wasn't there for all of it, but I was there for certain shots. It's a big deal.
Right. Yeah.
It's a big friggin' deal.
Is it distracting for you? Like when it's because it's bigger and it's noisier.
It's noisier.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really it. I did thankfully we ddidn't shoot it with a 3D rig. They did 3D later, which I find is tough to do. I did a movie in 3D, and the rig. There's basically there's two lenses, and it was so large in that instance for that movie and I think they're constantly improving it.
Right.
So maybe that's not the case anymore. But when I did it, it was so big that you couldn't. The actor, when you're doing over the shoulder, the actor couldn't stand by the camera.
Wow.
So for the whole movie, on all the over the shoulder shots, I was looking into the lens.
Right.
And never at a person. It was really difficult.
Yeah. Paris Hilton told me one time that she learned when you were doing the reality show, because she was always like looking in the lens and stuff.
Who's this again?
Paris Hilton. Mm-hmm. That's where you check your makeup. You start using the lens as a mirror. I'd never heard that before.
I've never heard that before either.
I just thought it was kind of, maybe next time. Next time you make a big 3D movie, you could try that.
Okay.
Check your makeup and
check my makeup.
Lens, you know.
All right.
So will there be? I mean, are you on? If there's 20 of these, do you want to make 20 of these?
I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile. I'm happy that Star Trek exists.
Yeah.
You know, I think it says something good about our species. I think it's positive. You know, of course I have a checkered past. I'm known as a stoner, so this seems, and I think the storytelling possibilities are endless. So I don't know. I'm you know, I'm a father now. I'd be happy to make more of these and have my kids watch them.
Right. Is there a difference in the way that fans are treating you? I mean, the Harold and Kumar fans are probably friendly, boisterous.
Yes,
excellent people to be around, but the Star Trek fans are a little different, right? And is there a difference? Have you experienced that?
They're more sober. They call me John Cho.
Do they?
And the Harold fans call me Harold. They call me by my name, but Star Trek fans have been wonderful for what I can tell, and I've been blown away by their variety.
Yeah.
And there are fans all over the world, and there are fans of many generations, and they're thoughtful people. What can I say? I was fearful of them. People worked me into a frenzy about how they might take a disliking to things I did, but whatever. But they've been very warm, and most satisfying to me is. Just their variety. I was at Griffith Park Observatory in LA with my family, and we were going to see the big telescope, and it was close to the public, but there was an astronomer in there who said, "Oh," and he said, "Come on in." And he said, I became an astronomer because of Star Trek, and gave us a tour of the telescope, and we all looked through it. And it's things like that because, again, Star Trek is part of the cultural canon. You're part of something bigger than yourself, and it's a special feeling.
Well, and you'll be part of it forever now. That's the thing. I mean, as this now, you're part of this weird extended family that dates back to 1966.
I'm good. I'm good with it.
What's the Woman Warrior? One woman. I wanted to ask you. It's your one man show, right?
No. The Woman Warrior was a play that I did. It was my first professional show.
Yeah.
I was in college at the time, and it's based upon a well-regarded book by a woman named Maxine Hong Kingston, and it was a Chinese-American girl's memoirs about her family, and I think that's the thing that made me become an actor, because I stumbled into the show, and I had read this book, and I thought I was an English major, and I thought I'd become a teacher just because I didn't know what else to do, and I was like, I need to find a way to keep reading books, and but I studied the novel in class, and then I stumbled into this production of the play that was based on the book, and I thought, I kind of prefer this.
Yeah.
I kind of prefer exploring this story this way rather than this way, and I think it was an unusual opportunity to get to explore a story having read it and then put it on its feet.
Sort of explore it from the inside.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah.
Fun.
And you still feel that way?
I don't know.
Thanks. It's hard to feel that way, I think, after the end.